Why suffering exists. Most people think suffering is something life does to them, but that's not true. Life brings experiences. You bring interpretation. Two people can lose the same thing. One becomes bitter. The other becomes wise. So suffering is not the event. Suffering is the relationship you have with the event. And once you understand this, everything begins to change. Suffering is resistance to reality. Let's start with the most important truth. Pain is natural. Suffering is optional. Pain happens when something meaningful touches you deeply. Loss, rejection, disappointment, endings, these are part of being human. But suffering begins when the mind says, "This should not have happened." That single sentence is the doorway to suffering. Reality already happened, yet the mind argues with it. And every time you argue with reality, you lose energy, clarity, and peace. Suffering is not life being cruel. It is the mind refusing to accept what already is. Think about it carefully. The moment something painful happens, there is a brief, raw moment of emotion. That is pain, but then the mind steps in. Why me? This is unfair. I'll never recover. This ruined my life. That commentary is suffering. You are not suffering because of what happened. You are suffering because you are mentally reliving and resisting it. The present moment is always neutral. It does not carry suffering. Suffering lives in memories of the past, fear of the future, stories. The mind keeps repeating the present moment simply is. When you fully enter the present moment, suffering weakens. This is why silence feels healing. This is why stillness brings relief. This is why awareness dissolves pain. Because suffering cannot survive without mental resistance. The identity that suffers here is where suffering becomes dangerous, when it turns into identity. Most people don't just experience suffering, they become it. They say, "I am broken, I am unlucky, this is just my life, I always suffer." Notice the language. Suffering loves labels, because once you label it as me, it gets permission to stay. But here is the truth most people never hear. You are not your pain. You are not your past. You are not your trauma. You are the one experiencing these things. The moment you separate your identity from your experience, space opens. Instead of saying, "I am depressed," you say, "I am experiencing sadness." Instead of saying, "I am damaged," you say, "I went through something painful." This small shift creates power. Why? Because identity feels permanent. Experience feels temporary. Suffering becomes unbearable when you believe it defines you. But when you see it as a phase, a lesson, a moment, it loosens its grip. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What is happening within me?" That question is healing. Awareness is the first exit from suffering. You do not heal suffering by escaping it. You heal it by seeing it clearly. Awareness is not denial. It is observation. The moment you become aware of your thoughts instead of drowning in them, you are no longer fully trapped. Imagine watching a storm from inside a safe room. The storm is still there, but it no longer controls you. That's what awareness does. When you say, "I notice I am anxious," instead of "I am anxious," you create distance. That distance is freedom. Suffering depends on unconsciousness. The more unconscious you are, the more automatic your reactions become. Awareness slows everything down. You start to see how thoughts repeat, how emotions rise and fall, how nothing stays forever. And when you see that clearly, you stop panicking. You realize this will pass. Suffering feels endless only when you believe it is. Awareness reminds you that everything moves. Why fighting suffering makes it worse. Here's a paradox most people miss. The more you fight suffering, the stronger it becomes. Why? Because resistance adds energy. When you say, "I must not feel this," your nervous system tightens. When you say, "I can't handle this," fear multiplies. But when you say, "This is here right now and I allow it," something softens. Acceptance is not weakness, it is intelligence. You stop wasting energy on resistance and start using energy for clarity. Suffering feeds on tension. Relaxation starves it. This is why people who allow emotions recover faster than those who suppress them. What you resist persists. What you allow transforms. Suffering is a teacher, not a punishment. This may be hard to hear, but it is powerful. Suffering is not here to destroy you. It is here to awaken you. Every deep pain points to an attachment, an illusion, a false identity. Suffering exposes what you are clinging to. If losing something breaks you, it means your sense of self was tied to it. If rejection shatters you, it means your worth was outsourced. This is not shameful, it is human, but awareness turns pain into wisdom. Suffering asks, what are you holding on to that is holding you back? And when you answer honestly, growth begins. Here is what you now understand. Suffering is not caused by life. It is caused by resistance, attachment, and unconscious identification. Pain will still come, but suffering does not have to stay. In the next part, you'll discover what keeps suffering alive and how to begin loosening its grip for good. Because once you see the patterns clearly, you stop being controlled by them. What keeps you suffering? If suffering had a fuel source, it wouldn't be pain, it would be attachment. Attachment to people, to outcomes, to ideas about yourself and the world. Attachment is invisible, yet it chains most people to pain for years, even decades. Think about it. Why do you replay old hurts in your mind? Why do you cling to people who no longer value you? Why do you keep trying to control life, even when it resists? The answer is simple: attachment. And once you understand it, you can start letting go. Letting go of outcomes. Most suffering comes from expectations that don't match reality. You suffer because you want life to go your way. You want someone to love you the way you imagined. You want validation and recognition. You want life to follow your timeline, but life has its own rhythm. When your inner peace depends on external outcomes, you give your power away. Ask yourself, am I chasing peace outside myself instead of creating it inside? The moment you accept life as it is, your energy shifts. Instead of reacting, you observe. Instead of clinging, you release. This doesn't mean apathy. It means wisdom. You engage with life fully, but you no longer need it to obey you. Freedom begins with letting go of the need for things to be a certain way. Stop reliving the past. Suffering thrives in memory, not because the past is powerful, but because your mind keeps reopening old wounds. Every time you replay rejection, loss, or failure, your nervous system reacts as if it is happening again. The truth, the past is gone. It exists only in memory, but your attention keeps it alive. Ask yourself, how many times have I relived the same pain? How many nights have I lost sleep over what cannot change? Every moment you replay the past, you choose suffering over presence. The key is to honor the lesson, then release the story. Accept that it happened, feel the emotions fully, then close the door. This simple practice slowly dissolves the grip of old pain. It creates space where peace can grow. Understanding your attachments. Attachment is subtle. We think we are attached to events, but really, we are attached to meaning and identity. You are attached to how people see you. You are attached to being right. You are attached to your reputation. You are attached to certainty. Attachment creates fragility. It makes you react instead of respond. It makes your peace conditional. The first step in breaking attachment is awareness. Notice what you cling to. Ask, is this truly mine to control? Choose, I can let go without losing myself. The person who suffers the least understands that nothing outside themselves can define their inner state. Fear of the future keeps you trapped. Another major fuel for suffering is fear of what might happen. We spend hours, days, even years imagining scenarios. What if I fail? What if they leave me? What if I never recover? This is mental suffering, not reality. It's the mind trying to predict something it cannot control. Living in fear keeps you small, anxious, and disconnected. The antidote is radical presence. Focus on the now, not the what if. Take action only where you have influence. Accept that uncertainty is the nature of life. The moment you stop fearing what hasn't happened, you take back your power. Your mind loves stories of suffering. Your mind is a storyteller. It wants you to stay in pain because suffering feels familiar. You might say, I am unlucky. This always happens to me. Life never works out. These stories create identity and meaning. They make your suffering feel real and permanent. The truth, suffering is only permanent if you believe the story. When you interrupt the story, by observing, questioning, and reframing, freedom emerges. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Am I creating suffering with my mind? Can I let this story go? The practice is simple but profound. Notice the story step back as the observer replace it with neutral awareness. This slowly breaks the cycle. Stop seeking external validation. Much suffering comes from seeking approval. You want people to like you. You want recognition for your work. You want someone to validate your worth. This creates dependency on the outside world. Peace becomes conditional. Freedom begins when you stop explaining yourself, stop justifying your choices, and choose yourself first. Self-validation is internal. You acknowledge your worth, you honor your feelings, you give yourself permission to be at peace. When you prioritize your inner state, suffering decreases naturally. Habits that sustain suffering. Finally, recognize the habits that keep suffering alive. Overthinking and rumination, comparing yourself to others, replaying the past, expecting life to behave perfectly. Breaking these habits is key. Practice mindfulness daily. Observe your thoughts without judgment. Replace comparison with gratitude. Accept imperfection. These practices slowly weaken the chains of suffering, and the mind becomes a friend rather than a jailer. Here's the truth you must take in. Suffering continues because we cling, resist, and identify with it. It feeds on attachment, fear, and stories, but none of it is permanent. The door to freedom is always open. In the next part, we'll explore how to become someone who no longer suffers, not by avoiding pain, but by transforming the way you relate to life itself. Once you understand and practice these principles, you will transcend suffering. You will feel it less and experience life more fully. Becoming someone who no longer suffers. The goal is not to avoid pain forever. The goal is to become someone pain cannot control. Pain is inevitable. Life will challenge you, test you, sometimes break you, but suffering is optional. The person who no longer suffers is not someone with a perfect life. They are someone who has transformed their relationship with life itself. And this is the step-by-step path to becoming that person. Acceptance is true power. Most people mistake acceptance for weakness. They think, if I accept this, I am giving up. But true acceptance is clarity, not surrender. When you accept life as it is, you stop bleeding energy into resistance. You stop wasting emotional fuel on what cannot be changed. You stop arguing with reality. Acceptance transforms pain into information, not identity. Example, a job loss happens, pain arises. Instead of saying, "This ruined my life," you say, "This is happening. What can I learn? What can I do next?" You don't ignore emotions, you feel them fully. Then you act from a calm, intelligent space. Acceptance doesn't make life easier. It makes you stronger than life. Build an unbreakable relationship with yourself. Suffering thrives when you abandon yourself. When you ignore your own needs, when you silence your intuition, when you chase validation, instead of peace. Becoming someone who no longer suffers requires radical self-commitment. Ask yourself every day, am I prioritizing my inner peace? Am I listening to my truth? Am I abandoning myself for anyone or anything? Your inner state cannot be dependent on the outside world. When you stop explaining yourself, seeking approval, or justifying your choices, you reclaim your freedom. Peace comes when your relationship with yourself is unshakable. Mastering the mind. Suffering survives because most people believe every thought. I can't handle this. I'll never recover. Life is unfair. These thoughts feel real, but they are not facts. They are just mental patterns that can be observed, questioned, and released. Step 1. Become the observer. Step 2. Identify thoughts that trigger suffering. Step 3. Replace them with conscious, empowering perspectives. Example, thought, I am broken. Observation, I notice I feel broken. Replacement, I am experiencing pain and I can grow from it. When your mind stops controlling you, you stop suffering automatically. Emotional freedom through feeling fully. Many people try to avoid feelings. They suppress sadness, anger, and fear, thinking it will make them stronger. But avoidance traps suffering inside. To stop suffering, feel every emotion fully. Let tears flow. Let the anger rise. Do not judge yourself, for feeling pain loses its power when it is fully felt and released. Think of it like water. A glass of water represents suppressed emotions. If you keep adding stress, it overflows. Feeling it fully is like pouring it out. It cleanses, clears, and restores balance. This is emotional mastery, not avoidance. Transcend, don't escape. You do not heal by running away from life. You heal by becoming larger than what happens. You feel deeply, but you do not drown. You care, but you do not cling. You experience pain, but you do not live there. This is what separates those who continue to suffer from those who rise above it. Transcendence is not avoidance. It is expansion. You expand your capacity to experience, accept, and respond. Your inner peace becomes untouchable, even when chaos surrounds you. Cultivate presence and mindfulness. Suffering is always tied to past or future. The past is replayed over and over. The future is feared endlessly. Presence is the antidote. Focus on your breath. Observe your surroundings. Anchor yourself in now. Every time you return to now, suffering loses a bit of its grip. Mindfulness rewires your nervous system. Anxiety decreases emotional reactions. Stabilize. Peace becomes your default over time. You train your mind to stay spacious, free from the storms of thought and emotion. Align with your higher self. To truly stop suffering, you must align with your higher self, the version of you that is wise, calm, and empowered, the version that sees lessons instead of punishment, the version that feels love even through pain. Ask yourself daily, am I acting from fear or love? Am I responding or reacting? Am I choosing growth over comfort? The higher self is untouchable by external events. It is the sanctuary you can always return to. Suffering as a teacher, not an enemy. Even at this stage, pain may arise. But now you no longer identify with it. You ask, what is this teaching me? How can I respond with wisdom? Suffering is no longer punishment. It is feedback. It shows you where you are attached, resisting, or abandoning yourself. This shift is revolutionary. Pain becomes a tool, not a trap. Challenges become opportunities for growth. Life becomes a teacher, not a tormentor. Freedom is choosing yourself every day. Ultimately, stopping suffering is a daily practice. It is the repeated choice to accept reality, observe thoughts without attachment, feel emotions fully, respond from presence. Prioritize your inner state. Align with your higher self. The person who no longer suffers doesn't live in a perfect world. They live in a perfect relationship with themselves. Every challenge becomes fuel for strength. Every disappointment becomes an opportunity for clarity. Every moment becomes a choice, suffer or rise above. One day you will realize something profound. Suffering didn't disappear. Life didn't become easier. You outgrew suffering, not because life changed, but because you changed. You became someone who experiences deeply, yet stays spacious, feels fully, yet remains steady, lives fully, yet does not cling. This is not a fantasy. This is a practice, a path, a transformation, and now you know it. You are capable of becoming someone who no longer suffers, because suffering is not life's gift to punish you. It is life's mirror to awaken you.